So that was Zegion's evolution, but there was something even more terrifying about it. He had literally willed part of his outer shell to transform into the divine metal of crimson steel. Not only was he demonstrating control over the laws of physics, he had made his exoskeleton into a god-class suit of armor. His own body was a weapon, and in melee combat, I pretty much had to call him the strongest out there. For spiritual life forms like Zegion, combat strength doesn't necessarily equate to one's social status. But there's no doubting how much of a threat he is. Even now, in the middle of his evolution, it looked like he was already acquiring a litany of other powers. I think we better sit down later and see exactly what all he obtained. Zegion seemed to be doing a pretty good job suppressing the power coursing into him, but there was no doubting that the Harvest Festival was underway. And as I anticipated, only Apito received any secondary blessings from it. Those two were the only ones I gave aid to by providing my own cell matter, so by definition, Apito is Zegion's only blood relative. There were loads of other dangerous species in the Labyrinth's insect floor, of course, but they had been all but wiped out in this battle. We couldn't resurrect any of them, sadly. We just have to wait for them to be naturally replenished. This regrettably included Apito's closer family. But the souls of all these bugs had just been given to her. I wondered what she was planning to do with them, but it looked like she wanted to use them to strengthen herself. We'll see the results once her evolution is all said and done. Apito's expression wasn't pained in the slightest as she played a role in this event. She remained wholly calm and dignified, like the queen she was. Just like Zegion, I really had to hand it to her. I felt a little bit cowed, even, as I ordered them back to their positions. Once the celebration ended, Zegion and Apito both returned to their respective labyrinth lairs, and wove themselves cocoons where they could complete their evolutions. Between the blessing from Zegion and the souls from her kin and the bugs serving under her, Apito took in an enormous amount of energy. It caused her own body to break apart inside the cocoon, reconstructing itself to become stronger and more battle-ready. She was literally reborn, and through the unique skill Motherly Queen that she acquired, she created a total of 9 insect-type magic born, each with multiple insectoid traits of their own. Motherly Queen was the ability to take in the internal biology of any insects she consumed and recreate them as magic born. These were the first bricks, so to speak, of the new insect hierarchy that would grow over time with Apito, reigning as their one true queen. She was one of the dungeon marvels, but she was also a servant of Zegion's, and Zegion wasn't shy with the favors and blessings he gave her. That was more than enough explanation for why Apito went through such an astonishing evolution. And if Apito evolved this much only through a secondary blessing, it was a given that Zegion would change even further. Although his physical strength was already at the apex of its evolutionary abilities, the amount of magicules in his possession now eclipsed the awakened claimants. But what really stole the spotlight was a certain skill he obtained through his evolution. Apito's Motherly Queen was totally a game-breaking skill, something almost sinful in what it accomplished. It was astounding enough, but Zegion's was on another level. He had acquired the ultimate skill Mephisto, Lord of Illusion, and ultimate is exactly what it was truly befitting of someone apprenticed to Vildor. With this power, Zegion was now the undisputed king of the Labyrinth. Between that and the insect paradise Apito would soon work to build, the dungeon now had a king and a queen, and the rule over the realm was absolute. With those two underway, only Adalman and his faithful assistant remained among the Labyrinth dwellers. There's no doubting Adalman's intense faith in me, as well as the fact that he's a bit okay, a lot of a freako. Cut from the same cloth as Diablo, I suppose you could say. It's helped me tap into holy magic though, so it's not all bad, but it turned out that Adalman was good friends with old man Ghidorah all along. They had engaged in assorted research together back in the day. That's why he was able to craft the extra skill Holy Evil Inversion, which neatly eliminated the main weak point that he had. I didn't give it a lot of attention at first, but in a way, this was kind of a genius move. It was a little funny to call him smart despite not having, you know, a brain to think with, but that's how monsters roll, I suppose. Of course, some monsters really don't need a brain, their intellectual makeup resides in their astral or spiritual bodies instead. There are even some supernatural creatures who think with their hearts, so to speak, instead of any brain organ. Think of it as kind of like people who have gained the complete memory skill, such as Xion. All that does is recreate memories, of course, but it opens up the potential for thinking purely with one's soul and astral body. And once you achieve that, it pretty much releases you from a physical lifespan, and punches your ticket to spiritual livelihood. Once that happens, pretty much no physical attack can deal fatal damage, and if your physical body's torn apart, you can regenerate it at will. Only certain special attacks, or weapons graded legend or higher, would be any kind of threat. Adalman hadn't quite reached that point. White kings like him are spiritual monsters, yes, but he's still bound by the yoke of his physical body. His thought processes are all contained within his spiritual body, so there's no such thing as dying of old age for him, but even so, he cannot continue existing with just his soul and astral body. He was this close to becoming a spiritual life form, but he wasn't quite immortal yet, that kind of thing. The same was true for his cohort, Alberto the Death Paladin, not to mention the Death Dragon they kept on their floor. They were all conscious enough to cover for those weaknesses of theirs while fighting, as well. Adalman specializes in long-distance magic salvos. He supports Alberto on the front line while also providing magical support of his own. The Death Dragon is always airborne, dumping attacks from above, and if Alberto ever gets too damaged or fatigued, it would immediately take his place as the tank. This teamwork had become a proven winner for them. Sadly, their opponent this time was simply too much for them to handle. There's always someone better than you out there, I suppose. If you're enough of a fighting master to wield legend-class Spear Hinata's Holy Spirit armor, for one, then you can basically cancel out any attribute-based attack out there, even the undead element. Takura was capable of that, for example, and I'm sure he'd make masterful use of the legend-class sword I gave him, greatly boosting his battle abilities. So it's great to have someone like that on our side, but it was our foe who carried a legend-class blade this time. And not just any old foe, it was the top elites among the Imperial Guardians, the great force the Empire boasted. Alberto's sword, whether it was a failed experiment from Kurb or not, was still an excellent, unique class piece of work, but it couldn't hold a candle to a legend. Alberto was only able to hold his own with an inferior weapon, because he was the more skillful fighter. His sword shattered on him in the end, sealing their defeat, but it'd simply be wrong to blame him for that loss. If anything, he deserved praise for putting up such a good fight. I'm sure you felt the result was disappointing, but all of you fought brilliantly nonetheless. That goes especially for you, Alberto. Your swordsmanship knows no peer. It awes me to hear that, my lord. You as well, Adalman. The next thing I knew, you fully mastered the magic I taught you. I think we could all learn a thing or two from your unflagging diligence. I may not look it, but I hate lifting a finger when I don't have to. I only dive into subjects that I have a personal interest in. But since he has a reliable, intelligent partner in Raphael overseeing matters instead of me, I'm sure Adalman's hard work will prove incredibly valuable to us all. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly portray my wisdom as anywhere close to yours, Sir Rimuru. Not my wisdom. Raphael's. Not that I'm gonna point that out. No need for modesty, Adalman. Now, I will grant you yet more power. I hope you will take the needed lessons from this defeat and grow even more for me. Your kind generosity for a defeated servant like me only drives me to strive ever harder. I will work myself to the bone for you, Sir Rimuru. He was tearfully choking out the words. I wish you wouldn't phrase it that way. However, Adalman was also the other awardee here today who turned down my offer at Evolution when I mentioned it to him. My lord, unlike everyone else here, I am a defeated man, something I cannot forgive myself for. Someone as incompetent as me, potentially reaching the same level of awakening as you. Perhaps, when I am given another opportunity and achieve greater successes than now, I will be better able to accept this lofty honor. That's how he put it, but I managed to coax and push him into it anyway. I mean, honestly, I didn't expect much of anything from him in the first place. Back when Shinji's party stormed their way up to floor 60, I all but expected the Adalman trio to go down hard. But now they far surpassed my expectations. They were just a poor match for Krishna, their opponent this time around. That was all there was to it. So partly as encouragement to keep him from working himself to the bone and so on, I tapped some of my soul supply for Adalman. It wasn't what we had planned for at all, but the Labyrinth was going to remain our final stronghold for a while to come. It's important to shore up its defenses, and Adalman's evolution was an important part of that. The Labyrinth contained all our vital R&D facilities, and we could even quarantine the entire capital inside it during emergencies. I never even imagined what a boon it'd be when I invited Rammers to stay with us. I saw her Labyrinth as a personal sandbox, but now it was our most formidable fortress. That was all thanks to Rammers and Valdora as well. I made a mental note to express my gratitude to them later on as I addressed Adalman. I know you feel that your performance was below your standards, but you have my utmost esteem nonetheless. I hope you'll prove that I was right with your future efforts. Yes, my lord. I promise I will live up to your lofty expectations. So Adalman's evolution began. He proved to be no exception, and irresistible drowsiness soon descended upon him. I didn't want him suffering thanks to me, so let's keep this evolution ritual going. I'll take your word on that, indeed. From this day forward, you may call yourself the Gehenna Lord. May you keep striving to live up to that title. Absolutely, my lord. Ryu. It's hard to sound all dignified like that for extended periods of time. And I should add, it's hard to come up with titles like this. I was up all night pondering over them. I mean, I don't need to sleep, so I was more bored than anything, but... Anyway, I decided to give Adalman the title of Lord, which was quickly beginning to signify the top rank within my hierarchy. We might see more lords in the future, but for now, Adalman was one of only 12 to be awarded that rank. It made him one of the most powerful military figures in the world, and I'm sure it'd give Adalman more of a voice in Tempest affairs, assuming I ever gave him the chance to speak up.